Okie dokie. Good to see you all again. Is this the first week or the second week of September? Second week of September already? It is? Phew, man, Mr. Sarah. It's moving. All right. I guess I got to get moving. I know I talk too much. Sorry. So I'm probably not in this. I know I'm not in sync with the schedule, but just keep reading from week to week. Do the readings or not. Yeah. That's hoping. Because they'll show up on the questions, will show up on the quizzes anyways, and questions about this as well, because we're talking about it. Venerable Rafael Cordero y Molina. That's a picture of him. I just noticed, I didn't notice before that he actually signed it. This Rafael Cordero. So this is a picture of him. He was born in 1790 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. He died in 1868. 1790, 1868. And kind of like, well, I guess exactly like Junipero Serra, he isn't technically an American because Puerto Rico is not part of the United States. It's a Commonwealth, self-governing territory associated with the United States. And one of my students told me in the last class, I better make a note of that before I forget. Well, I'll do it after. Yeah, it was only in 1917 that citizenship was granted to Puerto Rican residents. Before that, no, they were under it was like a colony of the United States after we got Puerto Rico in a war. Does anyone remember which war that was? Whom we fought to get Puerto Rico and Cuba as well. The Philippines, Guam, out in the Pacific and Asia. We also got those due to this war. I know, so many wars, Mr. Wojciechowski. How can you remember them all? Does anyone at least know the country we fought? If not the name, Mr. McMaster? Thank you, thank you. Yes, the Spanish-American War, which no one started. We blame the Spanish for something, for bombing one of our Navy ships, but historians are pretty clear, are pretty much agreed that it was an accident, or at least Spain did not do it to us. But nevertheless, started a war, and we got Puerto Rico. And that's where he was. Not at this time. I mean, he was in Puerto Rico, but the Spanish-American War, I think, was in the 1880s. So this was even before that. So he wasn't. So as I said, with Junipero Serra, California eventually became America. Puerto Ricans eventually became American citizens. So follow my crazy logic. I'll accept him into the fam as an American saint, Venerable Raphael, because he was born there. He was of mixed ancestry. He was both black and Puerto Rican. And I'm not sure what they mean by Puerto Rican. Do they mean like the indigenes of Puerto Rico, like the Native Americans? Or does he mean the Hispanics who came later, the Spanish? But it was a mixture of, I'm assuming, Afro-Hispanic race. And he's known as the father of public education in Puerto Rico because he opened up a free school for children in the city of San Juan, regardless of their race or their social stand, which that's kind of bold because, people of color, as they say nowadays, I was brought up not to call people colored people, but I don't know what you millennials are up to. Just tell me the rules, all right? Tell me the rules and I'll follow them, Ms. Harrison, all right? But anyways, people of color were not generally to be educated, or people didn't care about educating them, especially if they were slaves. And Spain did have slavery at this time, as did a lot of other nations, including ours. And certainly in the poor as well. I mean, people weren't too, motivated to educate the poor. And of course, education costs money, and poor people didn't have money. So he opened a free school, and anyone who could come and wanted to come could come. Now, he's called the father of public education, but he actually was not educated himself. He was self-educated. He taught himself everything he knew, and then apparently he taught to the children. And what did he teach? Just some basic stuff like, reading, writing, math, stuff like that, which is enough a lot. This is good. But, teaching reading to blacks or people who might be technically slaves, that's dangerous. Well, normally didn't want to educate the slaves, teach them reading and writing, because that might get them thinking about other things that we don't want them to think too much. Just, how to bring the crops in, So that was kind of dangerous what he was doing. And he was an agitator for the abolition of slavery, which eventually, I guess in his lifetime, Spain did eventually. I think it's in the 1830s or something that Spain got rid of it. I think. I'm not sure. But he also taught calligraphy, which is penmanship, how to write your letters and stuff like that. And he taught mathematics. And given that, as we can assume that he was a religious man, he also taught catechism. He taught the Catholic faith to the children in his school. And so he was known as a good and holy man. And in 2013, His Holiness Pope Francis, may he rest in peace, raised him, Raphael, to the level of venerable. So he's honorable in the church. And let's see where it goes. And I asked for Venerable Raphael's prayers for us in this class, that we will do well. That's not it. This is it. Okay. Whoops. Here we go. See where I ended. Mr. Barnett come in? Nope. All right. See what happens. Oh, yes, good. Bones, Mesoamerica, Zapotec. Okay, the Maya, talking about the emergence of writing amongst human beings. And the final place that we have to talk about is Mesoamerica, or are talking about. And I told you there were glyphs, like in Egypt. They were images, pictures that were carved into stone, so they're glyphs. And the only language that we can really translate or know something about is, as I told you, Maya, which appears in the 200s BC, mainly in Guatemala, the country of Guatemala. I don't know if I have a map here. No, okay, but I'll go back if I show you a map of the world. All right, where's Guatemala? Guatemala is this country here, bordering Mexico and Honduras and El Salvador and Belize. So the place here is Guatemala. And that's where the Mayan culture was generally centered. And so this is what an example of Mayan glyphs look like. Okay, with a translation, with the pronunciation and the translation. So they give you, here these, I guess you're reading down from top to bottom. Okay, Yakawa. He gave the god clothing, 29 headgears, helmets or whatever, white ribbon necklace, so it tells us what the god was given. First fire god's earrings, and God's quadrilateral badge helmet, so four-sided badge helmet, to Chaksak-Balun. Okay. I don't know who Chaksak-Balun is. Could be the person giving or the person being given to in the name of the god. Nevertheless, okay, each of these are actually pictures and drawings of different things. You can make out some stuff like faces, okay, the faces or another face, animals, the bodies of animals. This is one big face, okay. This looks like a tortoise to me. Here's another face. And you're combining different pictures for the different sounds together, okay, and they change as they're combined, so it gets very complicated, okay. Um, so yeah, just to give you an example of how these things are to be read, okay. And I guess maybe I should have said this about Egyptian hieroglyphics as well. Egyptian hieroglyphics were also very complicated because in the Egyptian mindset, the religious mindset, and their view of the world, everything had to be represented by an image. There was no differentiation between the image used to write down something and the thing itself. There's like a spiritual connection between the image, the written image, and the thing. And that's why no text in Egypt was purely a secular, non-religious text. All of it was religious, in a manner of speaking, because it all related to the other world where that was being represented by the image. So they created thousands and thousands of different images, and they intentionally, because everything had to have its own sign, out of respect for the fact that it existed independently in the supernatural realm. So it became very, hieroglyphics became very complicated in Egypt, very difficult. But they wanted it that way. It was built into it. It was part of their understanding of the nature of the world, and so it was embedded in their writing system and how they wrote. Okay, move on from this. This is just an example. Okay, how did writing move about? How did it spread? We know there are, oh, I guess I won't mention. Yeah, I'll move on. How did it spread? Writing, they think, spread with trade, business, people getting on boats or packing up some animal to take stuff somewhere else to sell it, going other places to sell things, do trade through empire, war, one group conquers another group and brings their writing system with them. Also religion, practice of religion spreads. So what happened in Mesopotamia with the Sumerians? Did it spread to Egypt? We're not sure. But somewhere in the 4th century BC, the 300s BC, the cuneiform writing system basically died out for whatever reason. There doesn't seem to be any modern or subsequent writing system that was based on Sumerian cuneiform for whatever reason. And Egyptian just appears. It doesn't, some people think it's was influenced by Mesopotamia, maybe. Okay, but that's why this is yellow and there are no arrows, because it doesn't go anywhere. It just stays, it dies. Where it arises, it dies. But Egypt, the hieroglyphic system, as we know from Serabit el-Khadini, right, is Snyder, okay, when they found those etchings by some Semites digging for turquoise on the Sinai Peninsula thousands and thousands of years ago. Yeah, some Semites took some of the Egyptian writing and created Proto-Semitic, which then the Phoenicians took. It traveled to Phoenicia. It's fun, interesting. It didn't travel down into Africa at all, the rest of Africa. Don't know why. But it traveled, the Phoenicians here in the Levant or the Near East, they took it with them in their travels, throughout the Mediterranean. They adapted it to an alphabet of sorts, an Abjad. And it became the Semitic, the basis for the Semitic languages like Hebrew and Arabic. The Arabs are. It traveled to the Greeks, who further adapted it by adding vowels and other letters, who gave it to the Romans. And then when the Roman Empire spread out, of course, they brought their alphabet. And then when the West spread out into the rest of the world, brought the Roman alphabet even further, to the New World, to North and South America, and other places in the world, Africa, India, stuff like that. So writing probably originated in Mesopotamia, but also dies out there. Egypt, writing seems to spring up maybe independently, and then it's passed on to the Semites, the Phoenicians, then to the Greeks, then to the Romans. It also affects it goes into Asia because, one of the Semitic languages is a language called Aramaic, which is very closely related to Hebrew. Jesus spoke Aramaic. I mean, it was a widely spoken language. Aramaic was the common language, actually, of the Middle East for centuries. Okay, and of course, the alphabet for Aramaic, or the writing system for Aramaic, was based ultimately on this Semitic system that the Phoenicians had, but it spread out to actually influence India, Mongolia, and other languages in Southeast Asia, Tibet as well. All of their writing systems, the writing systems of India, of Tibet, of Mongolia, not China, of course, and a lot of the writing systems in Thai language, Laotian, Cambodian, are ultimately based historically on Aramaic, which comes from the Phoenicians, which comes from Egypt. So that spread pretty far, influenced a number of lands. China, as we know, independently developed its own writing system based on pictures. And as Chinese, there were empires in China as well. I mean, there were kingdoms and stuff, and the rising and fall of various kingdoms and empires. And there was great, China had great influence over places like Korea, obviously, because it's right there. Japan talked about Vietnam, to the point where, their language, even to this day, Japanese is partially based on the Chinese writing system. They use Chinese characters. They mean Japanese words, so a Chinese person wouldn't really necessarily understand the character, or at least wouldn't know how to pronounce it. They might understand what the character symbolizes, but they might not wouldn't know the word for it. And I showed you an example from old Vietnamese, how it was written in Chinese characters. Korean used to be, but then one of their emperors, I forget who, developed an alphabet. So Korean, if you look at Korean, it's actually an alphabet. It's letters and vowels. They write the letters and usually the vowels underneath the letter or next to the letter. It's really a beautiful system. So that's how the Chinese system spread. But that seems to be as far as the Chinese system went. And then we got we got Mesoamerica. All right, the Mayans, as far as we know. And apparently the Mesoamericans didn't influence anybody, because we don't see anybody else taking up their writing system. No evidence of other cultures had systems of communication, but not writing, like the Maya did. So why didn't it spread? No idea. Just like why did they invent the wheel? Why couldn't they figure out how to carve? I mean, they carve wood. It's never carved wheels. I mean, they did have wheels, because we have, archaeologists have found like gold trinkets and things, and from the Indian cultures and Native American cultures, and there are wheels. Someone seemed to think of like, put this on a carriage, to carry things, it'd be a lot easier. No, they dragged stuff and hauled stuff. Man, tough people. I don't know, why didn't zero develop in the West? We had to get that from the Indians. Is not the Native American Indians, from the India Indians. Zero comes from the Indians. In India, Ms. Senior lost her. How's it going, Ms. Senior? Okay, so we talked about what is writing. What is sacred writing? Well, what is the sacred? What is that thing we call the sacred? Yes. Excuse me. Is this when I show them? Well, we'll see. Is something sacred or not? Maybe I've asked this question already, but is something religious or not? Is it athletic or not? Mr. Jastrzemski, the other day you played a soccer match against the Lancaster Bible College. Did not do well, but, I hope you will do well in the future. Nevertheless, sir, how did you know that you weren't going to a mass? You weren't celebrating a mass, or you weren't going to synagogue? You have no clue? All right. So you could have been at a synagogue when you were on the field kicking the ball around. Really? You're a slippery man, Mr. Jastrzemski. Were you playing a sport?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Game.
Oh, well, what's a game? Soccer's a game? A game is a sport. But what's a sport?
Our definition.
Then how can you know that you were playing one?
That's our real one.
Ah, okay. Other people told you. You're trusting other people what they're saying it is. Okay. What do you think they think it is?
Sport.
Okay, but what do you think they think a sport is? Do they explain to you what a sport is? Okay, then how did you know you wanted to be part of it? Did you want to do it?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
You mean it got signed? We're gonna have a dance team now, right? Is that gonna be part of athletics? The dance team, or is that something else? That be part of athletics? You got cheerleading, so I mean, a dance team, that's pretty strenuous stuff and twist and ankle. Anyone want to join it or thinking of joining it? I'm just curious. I'll send friends. You got my number. Let's go. No. How do you know you don't want to join it, Ms. University? And what is dancing? Okay. Moving your body through a rhythm? Rhythm from where? Where's the rhythm coming from? Music? Does there have to be music for it to be dance? No. Don't think so? Okay. I'm just wondering how you know you're not into it when you're not completely sure what it is. But you know you're not into it. But you're not sure what it is. See an issue there? I mean, it's well, how much you know you're not into it? Yeah. And I didn't do it. You go to see what it's all, what's going on. And they show you this is what someone showed you this is what dancing is like, and you're like, you either like it, you don't like it. You have rhythm, you don't have rhythm, you have grace, you don't have grace. Yeah. And stop before. I gave up no words, I gave up a long time ago. So you're playing something that you have no clue that you're playing, not sure what it is. You say it's called a sport, but you're not sure what that is. You don't want to join a team that's doing something that you don't know, you can't define, but you know you're not into it. Have knowledge of something that you don't know what it is. Interesting. Interesting, yes. How do we know? I'm using non-religious examples here, but, what is it? How do you recognize these? How do you just know them? How do you recognize that it's a sport and not she's got two things going on once. What am I going to do with this? When you're like watching a movie and what, doing a puzzle or something while you're watching the film? Why don't you just watch the film? Can you enjoy? Doesn't that boggle your mind? And how do you know that? It's weird, isn't it? And you recognize, you just know what the concept is. And it's an advanced concept, you know, but if I ask you to explain it to me, you can't explain it. I mean, you know you have a mother and a father, right? What? Unless you're some kind of religious figure, you know. But this column, you know you have parents, right? Huh? You have a mom? Okay, I got you. But also biologically, somewhere along the line, someone, okay. But you know what I'm saying. But when you say I have a mom, what is a mom? What's a mother? That raises you. I mean, lifts you up. Like physically grabs a hold of you and says, lifts you off the ground. Oh, that takes care of you. Like a cat. Get up in the morning, I gotta fresh water, I gotta give her some fresh food. Very passive aggressive, so she'll eat as much as she wants, she'll eat the rest of the food there. Don't even eat the rest of the food. Don't care if it smells a day old, your cat. Not getting fresh food yet. What else could be in a definition of a mother? I don't know. I don't know. What could a mother be? What could happen as far as motherhood? That without it, you're not a mother yet. Analogously, Miss Harrison, maybe, but not. Birth. A physical, biological thing happens. Get pregnant, you give birth. At least you get pregnant. You start calling women mothers even before they give birth. But how do you know that's what it is? How do you know that this person is your mother? That concept of motherhood. How are you able already to make that connection? How do you recognize it? It's not. DNA? Okay, I got you. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying, like the concept of sports, but getting even to deeper relational concepts. You know, like where do we come from? How do we know? Or we talk about, maybe this is easy, God. What do you mean by God? Explain it to me. Well, you can't explain God. So why try? So why do you believe in God? You never really explain God. Okay, well, fine. And that comes back to my other, that's what being gadfly that I am, I have, well, you don't know what's politics, what's science, what's sports, what's motherhood, what's fatherhood. Define those for me. What's time? Define those for me. Usually people are then like, oh, wait, huh? Oh, you can't define it, so maybe it doesn't exist. Well, the sacred. Sometimes we just use words. Okay, it's more of an experience, Mr. Jastrzemski. You've experienced games before. You've played with your friends, and maybe the experience you had from those games, it looks similar to what's going on a soccer field, and you know you enjoy that. So maybe as Ms. Diaversa told us, you try it out, experience. You have to experience it. Maybe. Is something sacred or not? How do you know? You look at this picture, many of you, even if you have no clue what's going on, I think would know that this is not like a political rally. It's not MAGA, no MAGA hats or something. It's not wearing a MAGA hat. He's wearing another type of hat, this dude. It's not that. It's not a rock concert, okay? You probably think it's religious, even if I hadn't told you that it was. Just by looking at it. How did you know? It's sacred. Something sacred is going on. Religious, but how do you know? Okay, because you see this. This is another event. You know, you had this dude placing his hands on the head of another guy for whatever reason. But then you got this dude placing his hand on a book. Similar activity going on. Is this sacred? What do you think, Miss Taylor? Is this sacred? Who is this, by the way? Joe Biden, our former president. Huh? See. Yeah. Vice president under Obama twice, and then president of the United States. So yeah, this is him being inaugurated, right? He's taking the oath of office, right? Is it sacred?
I mean, like, in a sense, it can be.
Good. How so?
That's got a Bible that he has to do.
Yes, it is. It's a rather huge Bible. Too huge, don't you think?
Like, things in Bibles. It's like tree. Like, it can be sacred.
Okay. Why isn't it sacred like a mass? Catholic mass.
I don't know, it just like doesn't seem like it's
Okay. All right. Doesn't see. Okay, that's fine. Your experience of these things and some experience. Does the president, any president, not just President Biden, but do they mention God at all? Is anything that just, you said, yes, it is sacred. Why did you say that?
it's in Bibles.
Quran's not sacred?
It is, but if you think about the Constitution, God,
Okay.
Like-
Connect the dots for me.
America, like, there's so we don't have like one God per se. In the Constitution, it's God.
Okay. Is God.
And I know that's like, it's very broad
Okay.
to some people.
Is God mentioned specifically in the U.S. Constitution? Is that where she
There we go.
But it's still, does it specifically mention God or our creator? Directly. Does it use the word God? Oh. Although it is.
You know what I mean?
I know.
You know more than I do.
That's an assumption, man.
Oh, we know.
That's an assumption. A long time ago. A lot of people to make you really smart or say a lot. They stand there. You understand what the people are saying. They think that's the PhD, be smart. Yeah. Although it is interesting that one of the founding documents of our country was the Treaty of Paris. Why is that one of the founding documents, the Treaty of Paris? Treaty of Paris. No. Ended it, brought it to an end.
And we're just like, starving.
All right, well, I think we're more on track with your original, more confident statement. It ended the American Revolutionary War, our war with. Which nation were we? Well, we were a part of an empire, but separated from this empire, which was ruled and run by a nation. Huh? Yes. Great. Or England. Has different names. England, that becomes Great Britain, announced the United Kingdom. Those are the names, but I think then they might call it Great Britain. Our separation from Great Britain was recognized. And yes, borders in order to be part of the treaty, we had to establish, what's ours, what's yours. But if you look at the Treaty of Paris, go online and you look at images of it, it starts by invoking the persons of the Blessed Trinity. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. No, we were a secular nation. All separated church and state, religion, not one. Treaty of Paris being by invoking the Christian God, or against His Britannic Majesty, which is, I love this title. Too bad we separated. It's just so cool. His Britannic Majesty, the representatives of the United States, then considers the term. Okay. All right, yeah, it is quasi-sacred in a way. It's like having both sides of, trying to straddle both sides of the fence there. It's a political event, the inauguration of the president who was elected, but you're using a religious text to kind of give him, I don't know, it's a text to give him any authority, or, I don't know, and it supports the president in a way, supports in the sense that, you got like LeBron James is wearing her shoes or sneakers. And he puts a picture on his TikTok account. It's like someone going buy sneakers. So, hey, he has to be president. He had to put his hand on the Bible, right? Yeah. So he has to be president. Or some sacred text, but it is a sacred. Does invoke God. Still held in God. Yes, a God of some sort to help him defend the Constitution. That's interesting. Again, I thought we were a secular state, a wall of separation between religion and but now we're asking God, I as president, I want this God to help me enforce the U.S. Constitution. Ooh, interesting. All right, so, I thought it was a similar activity to what the Pope is doing. It's a picture of the Pope, maybe a guy, a priest, or kneeling a man, priest laying his hands on his head. He's laying his hands on the Bible and saying some words, and it makes him president. I mean, I guess he is president anyways. Although, remember during Obama, there was a kerfuffle over that. Remember? Well, you were too young, weren't you? You were little kids. But maybe you're still watching the news, Mr. Levinsky. Do you remember President Obama's first inauguration, his first term? Huh? What do you remember about it? What was the little thing? Okay. Well, let's focus on Obama. What happened? What happened during the taking of the oath? Who made a vow? Are you guessing, sir? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, it was anybody who's trans? Who's trans? You remember? They messed up the oath. I forget, they omitted some words or mangled some words, whatever. Which, I mean, does that matter? He was elected. Okay, the Electoral College, he got the votes. Isn't this just a formality? Really? I don't even know. I'd have to go look myself. But I don't even know if it's prescribed by the Constitution to have an inauguration ceremony. And it doesn't describe in what way it has to be done. Nevertheless, Obama went somewhere in the White House and they did it again with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. I don't think he used the Bible this time. He just gave Obama the oath again properly without the mangled form that he had. There was John Roberts, the same guy, kind of mangled it a little bit. And then, of course, you had people on certain media stations saying, but he didn't use the Bible, so was it still valid? Is Obama still truly our president of the United States? All right. Well, what did the Electoral College say? You know, that's all the Constitution says. Actually, it doesn't. It's the amendment. We didn't have an Electoral College in the beginning. It was added on as an amendment. So, okay, that, you know, that's, you know, not religious or could be kind of religious. People walking through a hoop of grass. This is in Japan. Halfway through in the half point of the year in Japanese native religion, or good luck for purifying it's a purification ceremony. You're kind of purifying yourself of bad stuff and moving on to good stuff. You walk through this hoop of grass in the form of a figure 8. So in that ritual, walking through, and apparently you're purified for the next half of the year. Notice the language here. This is Chinese. Actually, it's Japanese, but with Chinese characters. So there it is. It's the influence of China. But then you got stuff like this. You know, people walking through a bunch of balloons to go to their prom. Sacred, not sacred, Ms. Taylor? No? How much did you pay on your prom dress? Just curious. Did you go to your prom? Did you have a nice dress? You think so? No, Mom, give me the crappy dress. Did you buy it or did you just have it in your... Oh, you did. So you went out and bought a special dress. Okay. For the prom. It was important. It was special. Sacred. Huh?
It's sacred.
Why not?
It's something like everyone school does. You don't have to go down it.
Do you still have the dress? Have you worn it since? Why not? What occasion are you looking for that you would need to put a dress on? I mean, really? You're going to just hang out on the weekend with the dress on? Why? Why wouldn't you? I mean, it's just a dress. It's not, as you said, it's not a sacred object. It's not a special thing, right? All right. Thank you, Miss Taylor. You put up with me enough. Okay. All right. All right. I mean, I think you know what I'm trying to do, Mr. Levitinsky and Miss Crystal, and trying to get you calm. I'm trying to get you to recognize. How do you know? Just get yourself asking yourself that question. You know, you see a bunch of people walking through a hoop of grass, and you know they're dressed up in a certain way. You know, this guy's dressed up in a certain way, got a hat on. These people are dressed up in suits and ties. Okay. I don't see any other women in the line. So I can't say what other women might have been wearing. This seems to be, I don't know if it's a guy or a woman. But, you know, the people here are going through a hoop of balloons. They're all dressed up, even wearing masks. Okay, they have masks on. And they're giving you mudras. They're giving you hand symbols and what does that mean? I don't know. Everyone seems to do that whenever the phone comes out. You know, what does that mean? Are you giving me the peace sign or victory or what? What does it even mean? I'm in the 2 gang. 2 gang. 2 gang rules. 2 gang life forever. I don't know. And they're wearing special clothing, special colors on it. Black. I don't know if there's any reason why it had to be black, but it was. Uh-oh, put a shirt on. Offering fire to a Hindu god. offering. You know, I'm going to make it my mission, Miss Quesada, to get her attention by the end of this course. But see, she doesn't. I got a couple of months left. I got 2 months. What is it? Okay. People worshiping things. In this case, a statue of a baby elephant. Actually, a baby with an elephant's head, because the father cut off the baby's head, and the mother was displeased by that. And as you know, happy wife, happy life. So I guess he could have just gone and gotten the kid's severed head and put it back on, but he decided to get an elephant's head and stick it on his kid. So his kid came back to life with an elephant's head. Ganesh. So people worship him in Hinduism, and they're worshiping him here, offering him fire. But people are worshiping stuff here. I remember this back in the 80s, the Cabbage Patch Kids were going nuts, crazy, getting these dolls. Now what is it? Some Chinese thing, some ubu, ubu, ubu. I don't know what it is. Some Chinese dolls or something are the big rage now. Something that people are stealing those or trying. I don't know. Why? Who cares? If you got it and you want it, fine. But who cares if you have it or not? I don't know. I never got it. I didn't get the Cabbage Patch riots. People going nuts. There you go. Is that religious? And people seem to be more excited than they're at a Catholic Mass. Do the people seem this excited at a Catholic Mass, Ms. Mackerlane? If you've ever seen a Catholic Mass, are they this excited? Like, ah, with a big smile on her face. I got the thing from the priest. Ah. Or people like, or yeah, that's what. Religion. There does seem to be an assumption, Mr. McMaster, throughout human history, that there are realities, things that people think are real, that they actually exist and are active in our world, in their lives, beyond the natural material world. I think we can agree on that. Whatever word you want to give to it, and in religious studies, they, do argue over, is there a thing such as religion and stuff like that, and how do you know? And a lot of religious studies scholars would say, no, there's no such thing as religion. It's just a word that was made up in the modern times. Okay, that's fine. Well, then you might as well close down the whole religious studies department because you don't know what you're teaching. Just collapse it into anthropology or sociology where they know what they're talking about. Classic case of a bunch of PhDs thinking themselves out of a job. But I don't agree with that. I think there is this thing, whatever word you want to call it, there is this assumption. We know, like just with the pictures I showed you, compared it with other things that are similar. You know they're different. Like Ms. Taylor told us, she knows it's different, even though she's not necessarily all completely crystal clear about how there's a difference, but it's different. Okay, so people believe in, whether you believe in these things or not, that's not the point. Do people believe in the existence of superhuman beings? Yes. Superman, all the Marvel characters, stuff like that, Why do people care about those movies? Why do they find them interesting, Thor and Hulk and all that stuff. Well, why do people find stories about angels or, gods and demons and stuff like that? Why do they find those interesting? People just do. People believe that there are superhuman beings better than ourselves, maybe better than ourselves. Invisible realms of existence, places that exist, but we can't see them. They're somewhere, and we can't see them or get to them. That there's an afterlife. Okay, there's some kind of existence after my physical body deteriorates, but something else might exist after that. And there might even be something that existed before that, a before life. Maybe I've existed before, maybe, which is always kind of funny because the people who always seem to say that, they're never like, some nothing little like slave from 5,000 years ago, Egypt. Always like, I was the king pharaoh of Egypt. When they're channeling their previous life. Or they were, they lived on Atlantis, of course, the mythical Atlantis and stuff like that. They're always, I was a great warrior of Atlantis and blah, 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 blah. They're never just like, I was some schmo who lived in the jungle, in Papua New Guinea 50,000 years ago. Got up, hunted for my food, ate it, went to bed, got up, hunted for, that's it for most of my life. No, that never seems, because that's, what do you, this never seems to be, previous lives are always quite more interesting. Done all sorts of interesting. I was a king once, I was a great warrior, all this other stuff. Yeah, okay. The forelight. Or there are superhuman activities, miracles and stuff like that, weird things that people can do or that happen. So even if some humans at some points of time in our history talk a lot about these things. Say like India. India is Hinduism in India is a hotbed of you might say religious activity for many, many millennia, not just hundreds of years. The Indians were thinking about religious ideas and the supernatural and stuff like that. But then you have other cultures that are, we might say, less developed. Okay, but simpler cultures, we might say, living more hand to mouth, no great civilization, where their appreciation of, say, a supernatural realm or something might be very unsophisticated and simple. It might just be, well, there are spirits, and that's about it. There isn't much more to existence than I find this, say, in a lot of Native American cultures, the Aborigines of Australia. There isn't a lot of thought about an afterlife or what the spirits are or what they're doing or stuff like that. That you live your life. You don't care. You're living in the moment. You got to feed yourself. Got to stay alive. Whereas in places where we have the evidence of civilization, like India, which had many great civilizations over a long, long period of time, and people have that leisure and that time, they thought more about these things. And so you have this explosion of myths and stories about the gods and the demons and, and then you have people thinking about the myths. You have theologians, so they're developing theories and ideas about what the gods are like and what reality is like. Whereas if you go to, say, Australia at the same, they're not really thinking about that. They have no metaphysics. They have no idea of what the universe is, or they don't think about that. Boys, go to India, it's like you're overwhelmed with all these myths and ideas about what the world is and different schools of thought. So some humans are just living in the moment of their actual existence. And yet, even, it doesn't matter which kind of society you encounter, a society with a very developed religious sense or sense of the sacred like India, or something that doesn't have that much of a sense of the sacred, like say the Aborigines of Australia, might never talk about the spirits or gods at all, But there is something else. Usually when something weird happens, that's where in any culture, when something weird happens, that's where the something else comes, the sacred. We start getting into religious stuff, something weird. Because you don't know what did it, so the gods must have done it, or I know I didn't do it, and especially if it's not humanly possible. I didn't make the mountain erupt, the volcano erupt and spew lava all over the place. I know our tribe didn't do it. It doesn't seem humanly possible that we could have done it because it's such a powerful, awe-inspiring act. So it must be a spirit or a god in the mountain that I guess is angry because lava hurts. If you touch it, it's fiery and burns you, or will kill you. So it's destructive. Actually, it's not. It's creating more land, but it's destructive, I guess, from your point of view. But whatever. So it must be, anger rather than happiness. I don't know. Maybe the gods are just firing off their guns or something. It's their version of like with us, and if you're in Texas, and it's like it's my son's birthday. Maybe that's just the God's way of doing that. Hey, my daughter had a child. Volcano explodes. And how do you know? But you know it's something else, usually when something weird happens, unusual. And many cultures, so every culture recognizes this fact, and they have words for it. In ancient Greece, they called stuff like this theos, the divine. They immediately associated it with these spiritual beings that we call gods, which for the ancient Greeks were just really more powerful human beings. It is, because in their mythologies, the gods had fathers and mothers too. They were born, they were babies. They could be killed in a manner of speaking. They could die. They never really die. Gods never really die, but they could be transformed. They eat. They'd have sex. But they were really powerful, or they had a lot of knowledge. So they were kind of just like human beings, but really powerful human beings. Nevertheless, the divine, the realm of the gods, connected to the gods. So if something weird happens, or rather awe-inspiring, and we know that it's probably not natural, we humans didn't create it, then it must have been some other force, probably which other force would have that much power to create a tidal wave or a volcanic eruption? Oh, the gods, theos, the divine beings. So we call it divines. This area is divine. And we respond to it with what the Greeks called threskeia. And yes, you do need that line over the E because it's a different letter in the Greek alphabet. So I'm transliterating this into the Roman alphabet. And it's an eta, not an epsilon, a short E. It's an A, a long E. So threskeia, which means devotion to the gods. You respond to the gods by being devoted, pious, piety. You worship them. Basically, you're showing them the respect they deserve as gods. Just like you show respect to other human beings. If the gods exist, which they believe they did, you show them reverence or respect. Because either you want them to do something nice for you, or you just don't want them to hurt you. Okay? You don't want to get in their way. So don't hurt us. So you want to appease them, placate them. Placate was a Latin word for to please. Make them like you and not do bad things to you, and maybe even do some good things to you. Threskeia. But you're doing it to gods. It's not the same. This word is not, it's being used specifically for this sense. It's not necessarily being used for, say, the devotion I might show to my mother, father, my family, my kinsmen, my community. It's not the same kind of devotion. It's not threskeia in that sense at all. It's a different kind of reverence. You have to treat the gods differently. Snyder, you okay? All right. Miss Kelsey, you with me? All right, Miss Kelsey. There we go. Another word is eusebeia, which is two Greek words, which simply means sebeia. Sebeo in Greek. I should have looked that up. Good something. All right, what does it matter? Reverence, honoring, showing your loyalty to the god, your devotion to the god. Eusebeia is another term. Okay, so we have here three terms for what we could call religion or religious practice. So it is recognized, I think, the existence of the sacred or religion is recognized. If we jump over to India, in their ancient language called Sanskrit, the word they is commonly used that translates religion or means religion is dharma. Dharma. It has a broad sense of meaning, okay? Basically, it's related to the Latin word firmus, firmus. And they're kind of similar, though the beginning is developed differently in the language. But remember, Latin and Sanskrit are Indo-European languages, so they're related. So firm, what's the foundation, the firmness of reality, the foundation of reality, the thing that gives substance, I guess, heft, one might say, Mr. Lebedinsky, to the universe, to the cosmos, that undergirds the universe, dharma. So that's probably its most basic meaning, and you see, as I have it here, that supports or establishes the cosmos. But generally, the word dharma means all sorts of things: virtue and duty, can mean law, means morality and ethics, and religious practice. Religious practice, which religious practice, I mean, there's no difference between the secular and the religious in ancient Indian religion or society, because worship ties into the Dharma, it helps reestablish the foundation of the cosmos. So you have to perform worship, and you have to do it right. It's a matter truly of our existence. You're reestablishing the foundation of the universe. One of the reasons that our universe, from our perspective, I got you, I got you. One of the ways that in Hinduism they have like a theology of evil, a philosophy of evil. Why does the world not work the way we think it should work? Is because of the Dharma. The sacrifices are not being performed properly anymore. They're not being performed perfectly anymore. And so slowly the Dharma is degrading over centuries and millennia and millions and billions of years, until eventually it'll become so degraded that the structure will not be able to hold together. Everything will be destroyed. But it will be rebuilt again. Dharma will rebuild itself to the perfect state where people are worshiping Dharma perfectly, performing the sacrifices perfectly, and whatever. That's going to take billions and billions of years, according to Hindu chronology. Yeah, so the fact that even when they perform the rituals now, they don't sacrifice animals very much anymore in Hinduism. Offerings like flowers and butter and stuff like that. But still, you have people there at the ceremony of the priest who performs it. You have a person there who sings the chants to the god or particular god or goddess that you're offering the sacrifice to. And they've got another person who supervises the ritual to make sure that the prayers are intoned correctly. You can't just speak the words. They have to be spoken in a certain way. So your breathing has to be appropriate. And the pronunciation of the syllables has to be proper. And you have, in addition to following the various rituals and singing the songs the right way, because if any part of it is wrong, the whole ritual is off. Dharma. So generally, Dharma, as I said, the structure of the universe, the structure of your life, the duties that you have from your position in the community. You are a human. You're not a god, apparently, even though if you follow Hinduism's logic, we are all divine. We are all from the same divine source. So we are divine in that sense, but we're not gods, okay? As Hinduism, there is a difference, okay? So that's not your Dharma. Maybe you'll be a god If you're a really good Hindu and you build up enough karma and stuff like that, maybe you will be a god in your next life when you are reborn. Maybe you'll be at a higher level of being, be maybe a lesser god, a spirit or something. Okay, you don't want to go down the rung of being, but so be a good person. So you might go up and be divinized. But right now you're a human, so that's your dharma. You follow your duties, and part of your dharma is to honor the higher levels of being, the gods, even the bad gods that we call demons, powerful beings. You are students, so you're supposed to follow your dharma as a student. To study, to pay attention to your teacher, do whatever your teacher tells you to do. That can get a little bit dicey, but yeah. And then move into the next stage of life when you'll become a householder. You finish your education and then you become a businessman. You run a business, you become a householder, you start a home, you start having children. So you have to follow that dharma. Okay. And evil comes in when you don't follow your dharma properly. If you try to follow other people's dharma, you're not a warrior. That's not, but you try to be, Maybe you're the best soldier ever, but that's not your dharma. You were meant to be a street sweeper. So it's better for you to be a mediocre or bad street sweeper because you're following your dharma than to decide, oh, I'm going to go lead an army, even if you might be the greatest general in that time period. Your dharma is set. It's the foundation of the universe. To upset that, when you don't follow it, you decide not to sweep streets, you decide to lead armies when that's not your dharma, you've now upset the balance of the whole universe. The whole universe. And sometimes things happen, the balance is upset so much, then there have to be interventions from the gods to reset the balance. But again, they recognize in dharma, notice there's not very much delineation between what's religious and what's not, because everything is involved in dharma. It's the whole universe. So politics, your studies as students, your life as a father or a husband or wife, everything. As a soldier, whatever. Even all the way, if you're just a guy sweeping the streets or cleaning the drains, that's still part of the dharma. In other cultures, let's look a little bit beyond India to the rest of Asia, China, Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia. They talk about something that they refer to as the Tao or the Tao. Which simply really means way, a pathway, a way, a road, a Tao, That's it. A way, it could also be a way of doing something. So if you send it, and I told you, a lot of words have very basic meanings, very earthy, down to earth meanings, and then they get these, they get some weight to them as people use them and people apply them. There's really serious words, but really, just a lot of words that we use are simple. If you break them down to what they literally mean, like transcend, skando, to climb something. It's very simple. Like you put a trans and skando together, we have a transcend, and it sounds uplifted, like, If I just said climbing over, the climbing overness of things, doesn't sound like I'm earning my keep, right, Ms. Taylor? No, it just doesn't sound makes me sound as smart, maybe it's a problem, that's why I say it's transcendent value, rather than a climbing over value. So Tao is simply a roadway, a path, but it can be used in the sense of a principle or a guide Okay, so more conceptually is the way you follow, the path that you're walking on. The road of life. A guide. Okay, also teaching. And it's your behavior, it's just how kind of segues in with Dharma, because the Tao is just how the world is. Some of you are checking out on me already. I got 5 more minutes. It's still good. It's just the way nature or the universe is, the way it works. It's meant to work. And so the nature is structured in a particular way. There are humans, but above humans, there are other spirits and gods, both good and bad. Below humans, there are ghosts, insects, animals, okay? Stuff like that. So there are levels of being where you want to be, okay? Hopefully you're moving up the levels of being and as you go through your various lives, not going down. But nevertheless, it's just the way the world is. You can't change it. It's the structure of the nature. What you can do, is to bring yourself into balance, as they say, or I'd say unity. I guess balance, equilibrium with the Tao. Not try to fight nature, but accept nature as it is and to live in accordance with it. So just the way things are. And that's, has to do same with religion. There are gods, you worship them. Period. That's no big logical explanation or justification. You're at the level you are at as a human, and you give respect to those who are above you, your parents, and then ultimately the gods who are above you. And evil spirits, you have to placate them so they won't hurt you. It's just the way the universe is in the Tao. It's just Tao. It's not really definable. Yes. All right. So on that, I'll end with the Tao and see you on Tuesday next week. God bless you all. Sir, you're welcome. Tao. The Tao, sir. Live in balance with it. Don't fight it. It's Tran. Have a good day, miss. You're welcome, miss. Have a good day. Have a good day, sir. Thank you. Have a good day, Miss Paul. Have a good day. Good day. Okay. That's Christian Faith. Who did it? Lacey, hello, sir. Have a good day. Lacey and Hoy, and there was somebody else. It was Lacey, Hoy. I think somebody over here. Was that Ms. Abra Bellamere? Hello, miss. Afternoon. Esther. Sure, I think so, yes. Thomas.
Is your YouTube channel in your syllabus?
Did I put it in the syllabus? I don't remember. I know it's on Canvas. The link is on Canvas. I don't remember if I put it on the syllabus. I'll take a look. Thanks. It's a good question. Her Taylor train. There she is. Oh, I should have. I didn't think of that. So let's see, where would I put it? Doobie-doobie. Cancellation. All right, there I mentioned it. See that I put an address. Yeah, I see that I have a section in the syllabus, Dr. Dunn's course recordings in a box, but I don't give an address. I just tell you that there's a video recording, a playlist, the playlist link is put on Canvas, but I don't put an actual address.
Where do you put it on campus?
Yeah, it's under, should be under modules. If you go down below the readings, there should be a link. It's a good idea. I should put the link in the syllabus. Hello, sir. Hello, miss. Yeah, I don't see that I put it anywhere else.
Like, did you fill in videos?
What's that? Oh, take a look.
I'm so sorry, I'm just trying.
You're fine. Oh, no, not the videos. It would, go down. Put it in. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Nothing. It's weird. I thought it was fun to go right on here.
I tried finding it earlier, but I couldn't.
Okay, here, go up. See if I put it up above. Read your modules. Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna have to take a look. Whoops. This going on.